Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy me a boat. It can buy me a truck to pull it. It can buy me a Yeti 110 house down with some silver bullets. Yeah, and I know what they say, money can't buy everything. Well, maybe so, but it can buy me a boat.
Welcome to another episode of Boat Boss, where we sit down each week and we talk about living, working, and playing on the water. My name is Kim Sweers, and I'm the host of Boat Boss. Check out that cool boat going by. It's awesome. And I'm also, when I'm not doing the show, I'm a managing partner of FB Marine Group, one of America's top 100 dealerships. Well, if you know anything about me and my mindset, I love to be in, on, drinking, swimming, whatever. I love the water. I was diagnosed with cancer many years ago, and I gravitated towards the water. So the gentleman that we're going to welcome to our show has that same mindset, that water is a healing factor for us in life. So I'm going to roll some film. We're going to show you who our next guest is, and then we're going to go right into the show.
A new book sets out to answer some big questions about the brain and bodies of water. Blue Mind explores how so many of us are drawn to the ocean or a scenic lake. We just like water. Ben Tracy talked to the author trying to show a scientific connection between water and our health and happiness.
Most of us know that feeling of calm we get when we're on, in, or just near the water.
And this is what you want if you're in the midst of a stressful week. You just want to hit that big blue reset button and get out here.
Jay Nichols is a marine biologist and conservationist who lives near the central coast of California. He's spent much of his professional life trying to protect endangered sea turtles. Now he's exploring the scientific reasons for why humans have such a deep connection with the deep blue.
There are all these cognitive and emotional benefits that we derive every time we spend time by water.
Nichols has dubbed it our blue mind, the mildly meditative state our brains enter when exposed to water.
Welcome, Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, to the Boat Boss.
Hi there, good to see you.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolute honor. I read your book recently, and I am really beyond excited to have you on the show so we can share and talk about our joint mindset that we share, which is the blue mind.
That's right. I think I think the people who get it just get it, and may feel like they don't need the science to back it up. But I think the science is super interesting. So I know
agree.
You do too. Yeah.
So I'm outside in sunny South Florida. It's a little chilly today. It's probably about in the 50s, 60s. And you are in California, right?
I am. I'm in Carmel by the sea, and we just had a break. We just had this big winter storm come through and dump a lot of rain, and we just have this nice break right now. So
that's nice.
It's a little cool, and the sun's coming out.
Well, very cool. So family, you have
Yes,
family out here?
I'm here with my kids and my wife, and one of them's on their way back to college and tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And the other's in high school doing the online high school routine. And so figuring it out like everybody else right now.
Aren't we all? So you have any dogs, pets, turtles?
I got a big Newfoundland, 150-pound dog named George, who's was on the couch behind me, and he's a water lover himself. He'll sit and look at the water, sit right next to me, and he'll get his blue mind on better than any human I've seen, and scans the water and just stares at it all day. So he loves the water. Yeah,
that's cool. Well, I have Fifi, my dog's out here somewhere, so gotta love those dogs. Shout out to all the dogs in the world. So let's talk about your obsession with the water. When did it start? How did it start? Share with us that information.
I think like a lot of people who love the water, I fell in love with it when I was a kid. I was fortunate to learn to swim at a young age, and then follow that passion into all kinds of different directions. Swimming, diving, surfing, paddling, eventually scuba diving, I'll get a little personal quickly, but I was adopted, and that comes with some questions and a view of the world And I also stuttered, and I hide it well now, but that combination made me, people said, well, you're shy. And I guess these days you would say an introvert. But I liked the water. The water made me feel better. Like I could disappear underwater, or I could paddle out to the middle of a lake at night by myself, and it was quiet. Nobody talked to me. And then I didn't stutter, because if nobody asks you a question, you don't stutter. You just sit quietly with your own thoughts. And that was my happy place. And I that ended up turning me into a marine biologist, because I said, I got to find a career that keeps me in this happy place. So there are other options, but I chose marine biology. Pro surfer wasn't really an option. Now I know there's so many more water careers. I became a marine biologist, and then started wondering what that thing that drew me to the water in the first place was. And I went looking for the book that you mentioned, Blue Mind. I wanted to read it. I didn't want to write it. I just wanted to read it and learn. But nobody had written it yet. So there was the conundrum. There was a book I wanted to read that I knew had to be out there, and it wasn't. And so I had to try to convince somebody that they should write it so that I could read it. But I failed at that. It was unconvincing. Nobody wrote it. So finally.
So what time was that? Like, how many years ago was that?
That was about 2009, 2010. I pitched the idea to a great neurologist who's since passed away, Oliver Sacks, who has wonderful intellect, and a water lover, and a music lover, and a neurologist, and a great writer and great mind. I thought he would do it, and I pitched it to him, and he said, "That's a fine idea. You do it." And I said, "Oh crap." Yeah, but when somebody like that tells you, it wasn't a suggestion, it was a mandate. And so 5 years later, I presented my book to him. I signed one, and he was in New York City, and got him a book. His fault, that I did it. And that, so that was, the book was published in 2014. So from 2009 to 2014, it was a self-education, very collaborative effort. I learned from the best, and asked these questions, the questions that you opened your podcast with. What is that feeling? Why does it pull us? Why does it help us heal? Why does it connect us with each other? How does that work? Because it clearly works.
It does. It does.
Your life and my life, and probably everybody who's listening, has been guided by the water, in a sense. That feeling has pulled us. We make our biggest financial decisions, our geographic location, our careers. That's a big deal. Like, don't you want to understand?
Yes.
What is pulling that?
Yeah. Well, with the whole COVID, pandemic, we saw a big gravitation towards the outdoors, the great outdoors, from boating to RV to power sports, just whatever it might be, hiking, surfing. What do you think, or why is it that the human race, the mankind, gravitates towards water in stressful situations?
Yeah, just think back on, like, not only pre-COVID, but pre-technology and pre-convenience. Our ancestors, their number one job in the day was to find water, clean, healthy water that they could live off of. If they didn't do that, it was a bad day. If they failed at that simple job for a week, they were gone. So inside of us, we have this need to connect with the water, to feel safe, to feel secure. So one of the reasons we have these emotions is because they help us survive. And they these days, you turn a knob and the water comes out. You hop in your car, you look at your map, for the blue area and you go to the water, you type in boat ramp and it takes you there. The self-driving car these days, if you have one of those,
I have one.
you say boat ramp and the car takes you to the boat ramp. So it hasn't been that way for all of human history. Our ancestors had to work hard for their water, and the emotional response that you get from beautiful water, healthy water, helps you get there, helps you stay there and position yourself correctly for life. So we still have all of that hardware and software on board in our brains, in our bodies, so that now that being by water is so much more convenient, and you could say a luxury, and there's a recreational aspect and a wellness aspect. That's all built on top of this software and hardware that we all have. And the more we understand how our bodies and minds work, the better we can leverage this thing I call Blue Mind as a benefit for those who need it most. And I'd say, as you mentioned, COVID, we all need it
Yes.
this year. Desperately.
Everybody. Yeah.
100% of humanity needs Blue Mind this year.
Yeah. COVID brought to me as a cancer survivor, this is what cancer is like, where you're in it, and you're fighting for your lives, you're fighting for your just everything about life. And we all went through that with COVID, and I was drawn to the ocean healed me along with my medical team and my faith. So I see the value in water. We see a lot of PTSD from our vets coming back that are here now. Everyone needs a why, and through all this, you've now created your why, and your why is obviously healing, the healing power of water. Tell us about the initiative of the vets and the PTSD.
Yeah, when we started with this work, I realized that my tendency is to help those who need it most, and by doing that, inspiring those who may need it a little bit less. And there's the same thing with Blue Mind. And I thought, who's in the roughest spot? Who has the most red mind, and who is tending into what I call gray mind? And red mind is that always on, agitated, maybe anxious state that we call normal. And you wake up in the morning, you check your phone, you check your text messages, and the day begins, and it's just a sprint until you're back in bed, when you check your phone again and you read more messages, and they may amp you up a little bit, and then you have a hard time falling asleep. You finally fall asleep, and then tomorrow you do it again. That's our new normal. We're always connected. We're always a little bit behind. We're always a little bit overbooked. Too much information, too much stimulation.
There is too much. So the initiative that you're doing, we call it not a movement, we call it a groundswell for the vets, the PTSD. Yes. How is that working out? It looked amazing when I read about it.
So what we find is people who are carrying the most stress in the form of post-traumatic stress, and it's interfering with their lives. People like veterans and first responders and frontline health workers these days. We see the needle move the most when they get on the water, when they get in the water. So whether it's boating, whether it's scuba diving or surfing or paddling, we see the biggest effect of Blue Mind. And it's, I don't like to ever overstate things, but I can say it's a fact that it has saved some lives and has definitely improved some lives. And I in my book, I get into some of the specific stories of some of the men and women, the veterans who have had that experience. And maybe you've had that experience. I know you have. I have.
Yeah.
And so when you start talking about this, you find it's not just veterans and first responders. No. It's anybody who's carrying a big bag of rocks and needs to lighten the load, finds that load extremely lightened in the water or on the water. And really with the veterans, you see it most acutely and most clearly because many of them have seen things and fought battles on our behalf that most of us can't even imagine. Yeah.
So someone looking to get into the Blue Mind, you and I are both there. We get it. How does, identify how someone can move towards that goal?
Yeah, I like to say, anybody almost anybody in the world, and that's probably not exactly true, but almost anybody in the U.S., if you want to get on the water today or tomorrow, I'll get you there. So there's no excuses. I don't care where you live. I don't care if there's not a penny in your pocket. Well, if you want to. So it's all about what you want. If you want to get on the water, if you call me and say, "Hey, I read your book, but I am broke. I don't know how to swim, and I've never been on a boat." Okay, let's do this. By tomorrow, you'll be on the water, singing a song. And so wherever you are, don't tell me you can't do it. You can, and no sorry stories allowed. If you don't know how to swim, let's work on that. Find some shallow water, get your butt in it, slowly. Go stand waist deep, splash around, and that's day one. Then we'll work on day two.
Awesome. So you handle the West Coast, I'll handle the East Coast of the United States, and that's it. We're there.
Yeah. I mean, think about if you own a boat and somebody says to you, "Wow, I've got so much stress. I go and work at the ER every day. I've never been on a boat. Do you know anybody that can get me out on a boat?" What your answer is, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Let's do this.
Yeah.
People with boats, they understand Blue Mind, and they want to share it, and they're generous with that feeling. And same thing with surfers, same thing with people who love to swim. People, if you have a kayak and you got an extra spot, you got a tandem, you'd be happy to fill it. And so I think that's kind of the idea. Let's share the stoke, let's share the Blue Mind.
I love it.
And build the groundswell.
Okay, so we're going to share your stoke, or what we call your water. In your book, you speak of identifying your water. I know what my water is. What is your water, and what is your favorite place that you can get into the Blue Mind on planet Earth? What's your favorite place?
Well, I'm kind of an opportunistic person, so my answer to that question varies. If I was out where our former house was in Davenport, I would say Mill Creek, which is this little creek that runs by the house, or where the house was, which we lost in the wildfires. We won't go into that. But Mill Creek, Mill Creek would be my go-to answer, because it's the water we drink. But I also used to get in it and soak in it. Right now, I'm behind you on the screen that I'm looking at is the Pacific Ocean and little Carmel Bay, and so that's my water right now. I fall asleep to the sound of it. I wake up in the morning to it, and it's our. And when it's angry and stormy, it's beautiful. And when it's calm, like right now, beautiful. So that water has been getting us through, our family, getting through this post-traumatic stress from that wildfire. So
water, the Blue Mind starts at home, and I love that. And one thing you've taught me is this. Let's talk about the Blue Marble and how I now have this in my pocket thanks to you. So can you share how we can all get a little closer to the Blue Mind with this powerful piece?
Yeah, I noticed long ago in my career that when people talked about water in the ocean and lakes and rivers, a lot of times the scientists and the conservationists led with bad news, and it just bummed people out. And what I know is that if you're bummed out, you're not your best.
Yeah.
You're not your most creative. You're not your most collaborative. You're not your most energetic. And I started thinking about the psychology of it and thought, how do we flip the story and recognize the good things, and with more gratitude? And it sounds kind of like California and whatever, positive thinking, but reality is you're at your best when you're feeling good. Yeah. And so we started giving out these blue marbles to people as a simple way to say, hey, thanks for making the world a little better, or a lot better in your case. So that's it. So here's the blue marble. It represents our whole planet, which the astronauts refer to as the blue marble when they first photographed it. And
I got two in my pocket.
See, that's what I'm talking about. So you have one that you can hang on to, and one that you can give away to someone.
There you go.
Have this conversation. And then when you give a marble away to someone to say thank you to them, you also ask them to do the same thing. Carry it until they pass it on. And so that builds the groundswell further, builds the conversation. There's It's not a popular word these days, but there's virality in the
I
plan,
love it.
and
I
it's
love it.
unstoppable. Yeah.
Well, I actually challenge anyone and everyone to read the book and then get a jar of marbles and spread the word, the groundswell, the movement, whatever you want to call it. I want to talk about the future before we wrap it up. There's a thing called the Blue Mind Summit. Share with me what's going on there. I love the sound of it.
So 10 years ago, when I was still writing the book, one of the strategies was to gather the smartest people who knew the most about these questions that I could think of. And the way we did it was we invited them to something that we invented called the Blue Mind Summit. And we would pair up maybe a boat industry person with a neuroscientist and ask them a question that nobody's ever asked them. And then we'd all listen. And it's kind of like tandem TED Talks in a way, with cool questions. And if you're a water lover, you wanted to be in that room that day. And every year we've done it with different cast of characters and different questions and themes. And so 10 years of doing these Blue Mind Summits every year. But at first they provided the raw material for writing the book. I could learn to sit in the front row, organize these summits, but then sit in the front row and just take it all in and learn from these amazing people and write about it. And this past year, we did it. Our 10th year, we did 10 online summits. So it was a collection of virtual gathering. And hopefully in 2021, we'll break back into real reality in person, and we'll do kind of the old-fashioned way.
Well, you can definitely hit the law of large numbers by doing it online. So you might want to have both eventually.
Yes, I agree. We've learned that. Yeah.
Well, any information you can share on that would be great, on the Blue Mind Summit, anywhere we can get information on the book. You have your LinkedIn page. Where do we find you, Dr. J?
I'm easy to find. My full name is Wallace J. Nichols. Just depending on what your interests are, I have a website, myname.org, wallacejnichols.org. Right now, we're in the first week of our online book club. And we do it on Facebook Live. If you go to my page, which is Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, I read the book every night for 10 weeks. It's 70 nights straight at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. This is the 8th year we've done it.
And that's just starting now?
That's just starting now. We're reading the preface, so you can catch up very quickly. And really, you can drop in anytime. Together is a great group of people that gather and connect with each other and share their questions and their interests and their insights in the way they're putting Blue Mind into practice. So that's happening right now, all the way in through to April.
Well, I will for sure be part of that book club. I'm a nonfiction book junkie, so I will for sure jump on and attend. Well, I appreciate your time today. It's been absolutely a pleasure hosting you. A guest on my show. You've been an amazing guest. One of the ones I can really relate to, one of the most, because of that blue mind, the mindset that we all need to acquire and live by. As I say, define your dreams, go after them. Whether you live, work, or play on the water, just get on the water, because there's nothing better than a lifestyle on the water. So Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, thank you for being on the Boat Boss. We wish you only the best in life, and thank you for all you've done to bring the blue mind into my life and many others.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I really thank you for inviting me. It's
all right. Well, have an epic day, and we'll cut everyone loose so we can get back to work. Have an epic week, everybody. Take care.